Welcome to the Cripescast. This is the podcast where we talk to people for and or from the Midwest. I'm Charlie Behrens. We are brought to you by Jolly Good Soda, and here's today's episode. Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome to another episode of the Cripescast. I am joined in this intro by the executive producer of the Cripescast, Colleen Maraca. The crowd goes wild.
Thank you.
How are we doing, Colleen?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. I like your shoes. Those are cool.
You always have to make a comment about my
about your
fashion
outfit.
statement.
I know. It's just
Fashion,
sort of like
please.
what's right in front of me. But no,
Yeah.
those are like what kind of sandals are there? A little elevation on them.
A little bit.
Yeah.
They're called Ilsa Jacobson's. My mom.
Okay,
maybe
we're
they're
not
dirty,
sponsoring them here.
but they're my
Okay.
favorite because they have this like breathable texture.
Oh yeah. Okay. All
And
right.
I have like a bunch like this, but this is my sandal. It looks really dirty.
Yeah.
Okay.
Does look dirty, but that's okay. It means they're a working woman shoe, or sandal.
I like your shoes.
Thank you. They're boots. So interesting Cripescast we have for today. Here's how it started. I was doing a thing, I think on Bellied Up, where I was talking about ice fishing and like using lead heads. And then some of the folks from Get the Lead Out, which is an organization that we're talking to today, contacted me and they're like, hey, I don't know if you know this, but lead heads and using lead in fishing tackle is one of the things that's killing the loons. And I was like, no, I cannot be responsible for killing the loons.
Mr. Hippy Dippy.
Mr. Bird Watcher guy.
For real.
You know, I can't be watching the birds and then watching them die. So I was like, come on. Be a guest on the Cripescast. I love to talk about it.
Yeah.
Love to chit chat about it. So it is actually very interesting. Basically, loons use lead. This is the quick tease here. Loons use the lead to digest. Geese also do that, but you know, they're probably not using a goose to like advertise Get the Lead Out, you know, because a lot of people are like,
I hate
maybe
geese.
those geese should eat a little more lead.
Yeah.
And if they don't eat it, maybe I'll put a little lead inside them.
Oh, jeez.
All right, hunting joke. But also, if you are hunting for geese, you got to use steel shot, which is all part of the deal, not putting lead in waterways. So anyway, it's pretty interesting. And me being sort of an environmental dude, I found a lot of this super interesting. And in fact, we're going to do a giveaway actually. So if you're following us on Instagram this week and you see the video, you comment on it. We're going to choose someone who comments on the video to send them some tungsten weights instead of lead weights. They actually work great. A lot of people prefer them to the lead weights. The only thing is they can be a little bit spendier, okay?
Yeah,
But
Stephen and Kelly actually sent us a couple of shirts as well as some lures or some, I don't know, I'm not a fisherman, but they sent us some gear that you can use that's lead free. And so if you comment on the video, you'll get some cool, show them the little tackle box.
oh yeah. Here's
That
the tackle
one's
box.
cool.
So it's not just a tackle box. Look at that. That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
But we're also going to send you some of our tackle, Grandpa Bob's tackle box from MEPS.
Yeah.
And don't worry.
Is it lead free?
No, I think so.
We'll check before we do that.
Yeah, we will. No, it is.
Yeah, comment on our video and we'll send you some of the great stuff that we're keeping some of our own because we do want to get the let out stuff, but we are going to send you, we have an abundance. And since I'm not a fisher, let's send it to people that actually use it. And so we're going to give them some of the stuff that we got from Kelly and Steven.
Yeah, there you have it.
Thanks for sending it over. Charlie, can you do a loon impression?
Ooh. Wait, no. Ooh. Ooh. No.
And that's why it's important to keep the loons alive because we don't want to hear that. We want to hear the actual loons. Being a Minnesotan, that's our state bird. Like
that is your state bird. So
yes. Loon juice. That's like a really good cider that we have.
Loon juice?
Loon juice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds like you squeezed a loon really hard and made some juice.
We'll never know. You don't want to know how the sausage gets made. You don't want to know how the cider gets made.
What is in loon juice?
It's just a cider. I think it was a local brewery where my parents are, but it's really good. And
like an alcoholic cider?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Well, I can look it up. It's really good. But we love our loons. And we also have the Minnesota Loons, I think it's not our soccer team. We just love the loons.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
Well,
and I feel like that's a really important sound of up north is a loon.
Is a loon. Yeah, and I should get better at my loon impression.
No, that sounds like
that's an owl.
Ooh. No, that's a dove.
That's a nervous owl. Yeah.
We had doves in our in my elementary school. We had like a front fountain with like koi fish. Yeah. And then a bunch of doves. Wow. That just unlocked a core memory there.
That noise unlocked that core memory.
That really, that's weird. Why would they have that at an elementary school?
I don't know.
That sounds kind of like unsanitary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very unsanitary. What?
We also became a magnet school, so I was learning languages in the 3rd grade.
How many of them do you still know?
I was learning Mandarin when I was in 3rd grade to 6th grade. Xixi, zaijian. And then I know how to count to 10. And then I know Spanish.
Wow. Spanish.
Aren't you doing Babbel?
Yeah.
How's that going?
I've been trying. It's not going great.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping maybe I'll get back into it. But
yeah.
Trying to be more educated in my older age,
And just to show you where we're at today, yesterday was Charlie's birthday.
Yes.
And today you're going to go do your first pitch. And I can tell you're a little nervous in the studio today. Can you guys see it at home? I'm
a little anxious, guys. Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm throwing the opening pitch at the Brewers game, which is an incredible honor. But you know that there are a bunch of people in the stadium who are like, who the hell is this guy? Why does he get to be down there doing that? You know,
mostly your parents.
Yeah,
mostly your family.
Mostly my dad will be shouting this from the sideline. Yeah. But, and I was out practicing yesterday. There were some wild pitches, but I was talking to, here's a flex. I was talking to Christian Yelich. No big deal. No big deal. No, actually, Christian also works with Liney's. So we did a video about it, which is coming out soon. But it's basically Christian training me to throw the first pitch, using the brewery as kind of our training facility.
How is Christian these days?
He's probably taken, Colleen, okay? Have some water. You're looking thirsty. Okay, have a Jolly Good. You're looking thirsty.
Hannah, cut that.
No, Hannah, keep that in.
I'm a Cubs fan anyway. It wouldn't work.
Oh, yeah, I probably wouldn't. That's true. But no, I'm excited to go throw the opening pitch. I was practicing with John and Billy Doucette yesterday. I was wild, but I was talking to Christian, and he basically said, don't put it in the dirt. If you got to go wild, but do not put it in the dirt. So I'm going to do my best. And that's all I can do, folks.
Are you going to practice today? Do you need help? I was a baseball sister, so.
Were you? Well, that's great. I may need some help.
I used to keep a book for my brother's team.
Oh, good for you.
So that's I know great. Baseball.
You know.
And I'm a pitcher for my kickball team. So
I learn so much about you every time on this podcast.
This is my only chance. I'm usually in the trenches of work. And so now it's like I come up for the sunlight and I'm like, hello world, hear about me. Well, yeah, if you want help, let me know.
All right. Well, I will. Okay. I will take you up on that.
Great.
We're happy to have you too above the trenches. But anyway, I think we should just get right into it. What do you think?
For sure.
All right, folks, here is my conversation with Stephen and Kelly from Get the Let Out. I just want to thank you both, first of all, for coming on the Cripescast. I've been a fisher my whole life. It's been ingrained in Wisconsin culture, but also my culture growing up. Did it with, both my grandpas, my dad, and everything. And I was talking about fishing. I don't know if it was on this podcast or the Bellied Up podcast, but one of you reached out and said, hey, you're talking about using lead heads. Do you know how bad lead is for loons or something? And it was one of those things where it's like, well, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It's lead. But I just always call jigs lead heads, the same way you call your brother a jackass. You know what I mean? It's just synonymous. So I've never really stopped, though, to think too much about what goes into making our lures. And of course, you look at the back of the lure, and you see this product is known to contain chemicals that cause cancer, but only in the state of California. So I didn't worry about it too much because it was in Wisconsin. But anyway, so I'm so glad you guys reached out. And I'm really interested in figuring out more. So kind of take it away from there.
Yeah, well, we have to we have 2 Minnesota Green Corps members who are serving with us. Minnesota Green Corps is an AmeriCorps program, and Kyle is serving with us this year. He's a Wisconsinite, and he heard you refer to them as leadheads. So he was the one who started all this kind of going and reached out.
Okay,
so
got it.
Yeah. So we're happy that to talk to you about what we're doing. Would you like just a kind of information about the work that we're doing, why we're doing it?
Yeah, give us the backdrop. And first of all, introduce both you. So I know we've got both of you on today. So introduce yourselves and just, give us the cliff notes for the listeners who are just joining us.
Sure. Stephen, if you want to go first, and then I'll introduce myself and just give a little bit of a background about the program.
I'm Stephen Yang. I'm one of the program coordinators for the Get the Lead Up program at the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Stephen. And Kelly?
And I'm Kelly Amoth. I'm the other program coordinator. Stephen and I started this work in late 2020. Just a background about Get the Lead Out. This is a restart of this program at the Pollution Control Agency. It ran from 2000 to about 2010 and then was cut. And unfortunately, we came back into existence because of the Deepwater Horizon oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, which we're coming up on the 13th anniversary of that oil spill. So it was in 2010. And in the months and years after that oil spill, researchers scrambled to the Gulf to really assess the environmental damage, not only to the water and the land there, but also all the animals that make their homes in the Gulf. And part of the research that came out of it was about Minnesota loons and really learning more about their migration patterns. So Kevin Kenow at the U.S. Geological Survey Office in Wisconsin, he led a team that really looked at the migration patterns of loons and was able to present that Minnesota loons were there during the oil spill and they were affected. And so the estimated number of loons lost in the oil spill, we'll never know the exact number, but just by doing some population data, they figured about 600 to 1,000 loons that were lost. And for Minnesota, we have the second most loons in the entire country, just behind Alaska. The estimated population is 12,000. For you, Charlie, in Wisconsin, I had to look it up. It was a little tricky to find population numbers in Wisconsin, but it's about 4,000 adults. So we have a lot of loons here. And I would say kind of the one of the struggles Stephen and I have with this work is trying to make sense of, we have such a big loon population. A small number of loons were lost in this oil spill. Why do we need to work so aggressively to protect and restore their population? And loons are a very long-lived species of birds. They can live up to 25 to 30 years. And so really we're looking at a generational impact from that oil spill coming on 13 years. So the state of Minnesota petitioned to the trustees in the Gulf for funding to restore and protect our loon population here. And Minnesota was one of 2 states so far that have been granted an open ocean grant. So recognizing that there were species in the Gulf that were impacted by the oil spill, and our loons spend half their life basically in the Gulf during the winter months. And so Minnesota received $7 million out of the $20.8 billion that British Petroleum had to pay out because of the oil spill. And most of that went to our colleagues at the DNR. They're working really on an 8-county focus area in the loon country of Minnesota. And then 1.27 came to Steve and I at the Pollution Control Agency to really restart this program about education and outreach about the danger of lead fishing tackle to loons. And so that's where we are now in our work that we're doing.
It's a very interesting story, and it is kind of a reminder to people that loons are a bird that they like many Minnesotans go south for the winter, and But it's amazing how not just this climate impacts that climate, but how that climate impacts up here, or it impacts the loon populations. And the more those loons travel, the more they can be impacted by various things. So there are people out there listening to this interview right now, and they're going, I don't give a shit about loons. I don't. I don't care. They're nice, but they're annoying when they... you know what I mean? They wake me up. Or what? Why should people care about loons, even if they don't care about loons?
Charlie, I would love for those people to email us and tell us that they don't like loons. Because Steve and I have talked to people all around Minnesota, all ages, and we like to say that we haven't met someone yet who doesn't like loons. So
you know what? That actually is pretty amazing, because I now that I say that, I don't think I've ever personally met someone who doesn't. I just imagine. Now, I'm a big bird guy, so I love myself a loon. But yeah, I would just imagine, and maybe that's the wrong imagination to be going for. Maybe everybody does love loons, but let's say, for the sake of argument, they don't. What is the importance of the loon to the greater ecosystem?
Yeah. So, and you're an outdoorsman, and people here in this part of the country, we love being on the water, no matter the season, right? And so, loons as a species, we can consider them to be indicator species of water quality. They are visual predators. They need clean, clear water in order to see and catch their food. And so, as we start to see our climate change as well, and see fewer loons on lakes that we're used to seeing, that's an indication that maybe something's happening with that body of water as well. And the current projection from Audubon is that by 2080 here in Minnesota, like, I'll be super old, but when I talk to kids, I'm like, that's your lifetime. That's you, like, you'll be alive. And is that loons won't be here in Minnesota anymore because of our warming climate and our changing water. So I think it's not only making a change in the type of fishing tackle we're using to stop preventable deaths, but also thinking about what other actions can we take to protect the ecosystem, protect the water that loons need in order to raise their young and live healthy lives here in this part of the country.
Stephen, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I'd also add that loons already face many human-caused threats. So, for example, wake boats and shoreline development impacts the shoreline that loons need, that habitat for nesting. So we're just trying to minimize as many human-caused threats as we can to the loons who might not be here in 2080.
So you're saying those big wakeboarding boats, or just any boat causing a wake?
I think it's the big one. It's not our area of expertise, but I would assume it's the big, large ones that send huge wakes that inundate a loon's nesting habitat or eggs or whatnot.
Got you. Okay, well, let's focus on the fishing tackle. How much of the lures that we use, the jigs, whatever, how much of it has lead?
I would say a lot of it, to be completely frank. And lead is very popular for many reasons. First, it's very cheap, and it's very easy to manufacture, low melting point, easy to mold and shape. So there are very valid reasons why lead is the most popular metal for a fishing tackle at the moment. But there are many alternatives out there too that perform just as well or even better. Like in the case of tungsten, many ice anglers know that those little tungsten jig heads drop very fast, very sensitive, very dense. So yeah, I'd say for the most part, long story short, if there's a molded piece of metal on the tackle that you're buying, chances are it's probably lead, unless it specifically states that it's lead-free or made out of a certain material like tungsten.
Tungsten works just as well as lead.
I'd say it works much better than lead. It's probably the highest performing lead-free alternative that is out there.
Okay, so tungsten works better than lead.
Correct.
Why is it so hard to convince fishermen to use it then?
Yeah, cost is definitely the biggest factor with tungsten. It's in most cases, not all cases, from my personal experience, just from looking at products that are out there, in most cases it does cost more. But what I tell folks is that the performance is there, and you pay more to have a higher performing product. So that's the biggest factor for most people, I'd say.
Isn't that funny? You're not going to get them with the loons. You're not going to get them, hey, man, this will help save the loons. No, these perform better,
Exactly.
It's like, this can catch you bigger fish. It's funny. It's funny that's the thing that we go for. Now, first of all, before we go forward with the tungsten and the fishing alternatives, is it just loons? Geese are the ones that they grab the gravel to help them digest food, right? And do loons do that as well, or how are loons ingesting these lead heads?
Yeah, loons do that as well. So the primary way I should state is that loons ingest lead through the fish that they eat. So loons obviously don't have teeth, so they just house down any fish that they consume. So the fish is either being reeled in by an angler who's using lead tackle, their fish has broken off with lead tackle attached. So a loon catches up to the fish, swallows it whole. The lead comes with it too. And like you mentioned, Charlie, they do they grab pebbles to store in their gizzards to help them digest. And they grab these pebbles off the bottom of lakes, which is where our lost lead sinkers and jigs end up too. And these sinkers and jigs are very similar in shape and size as the pebbles that they need for their gizzards. So loons could easily mistake them for what they need, the pebbles, to help them digest.
And how much lead does it take to kill a loon?
Not much. Even a small lead split shot sinker is enough to kill a loon, those very tiny ones. Probably a grain of rice.
So basically, I got a perch on, and I don't tie my jig on tight enough, or I don't tie my sinker on tight enough, or the perch swallows it, and you cut the line, and the perch is now wounded, right? And it's like, now it's easy prey. So it's going to get nabbed by either a loon or by an eagle. Does this lead affect the eagles too?
So in addition to loons, eagles, the percentage of eagles that are brought into, the raptor centers and main rehabilitation center here in the Twin Cities at the U of M campus, the percentage of eagles that brought in there with lead in their systems, I think it's in the 80th percentile, like it's 80% or more. And so eagles are often feeding on gut piles from deer hunting, but they can also ingest lead fishing tackle as well. And then other species too, like trumpeter swans, it's a big issue for trumpeter swans as well. They're herbivores. They're, like you said, with geese, just picking up plants. And so they're picking up all that lost fishing tackle. So we like to tell people, like, whether you lost a jig last summer or 15 years ago or longer ago, it's still in the bottom of that lake. So it could still pose a risk to wildlife.
So I'm a big hunter and fisher, and when I'm hunting, bird hunting specifically, we're using steel shot. We're using steel shot, and there's not a lot of argument about that. There's not a lot of hunters that are going to be like, nah, screw it, I'm going to use lead shot. It's kind of frowned upon. You're kind of a jackass. And the reason is, obviously, for that is that the same reason you don't use lead fishing. So how come the hunting community has embraced not using lead over waterways, but the fishing community has not?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a lot of it, just from what we hear, is just they've been doing it for a long time and it's tradition and it's what they're used to. And from a bigger picture, it's a little more difficult, I'm sure, for the manufacturers as well too. But with the hunting community, I do find that when we talk to folks who are waterfowlers, that they know that the reason why they're using steel, especially the younger ones who never grew up in an age where they're using lead, they know that lead is bad, and they understand why they're using steel. So it's a very good segue for them to think about fishing tackle, because most folks don't realize that lead is still in our fishing tackle. So despite, the very different audiences and kind of how one progresses more than the other, I'd say there's definitely some overlap and some understanding between the two.
And Charlie, as an angler, would you say you have a large collection of fishing tackle? Like more than you will ever need in your lifetime?
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah. Right. But look, I'm going to need it at some point, I'll say that. You're right. So I've got this whole collection, and so I'm like, what? I got to get all home. And you're saying it's in all my stuff, Is it though? It's not in the little, it's just in the weighted stuff. It's just in the jigs and in the weights, right?
Right. So, top
Is it
waters.
in the lures?
It depends. So most crankbaits are just wood, plastic, steel BBs. So yeah, and some tackle types, like just plain steel hooks, don't have it. Obviously, plastics obviously don't have it. So yeah, it's mainly just anything with a dense weight to it.
Okay, but let's kind of like just narrow it down for fish. I don't know that this is going to be something that fishermen are going to be able to do. Throw out all your tackle and buy all new tackle. I mean, I almost think there's got to be steps for this to be, done so people embrace it. Like, let's say you throw out a big lure and it's got lead in it, and that lure is down there. That's not something a loon is going to pick up and use to grind. I mean, a loon is not going to get that in them, ingest that in any way. I mean, it's possible, I suppose, but is it practical? Would they?
Right. And we really, the focus of the tackle that we're buying and sharing with people is on the smaller side. So like 1/4-ounce jigs are probably the biggest size that we're even sharing with people in our sample packs. Because we recognize like those bigger size jigs. I think, Stephen, there was one that somebody shared something about like a super big jig, but it's rare. It's rare that a loon is going to swallow a really big lead jig or lead weight. So river anglers that use those were like, they're not going to swallow it. So go ahead. We're just focused on the small stuff.
Focusing on the small stuff. Now, it's also, people are uneducated, and that's what we're doing, is we're educating people about this. But I think we've seen in a lot of ways in society that like people are busy. They're not thinking about these things. What about the manufacturers of these lures, of these jigs and these lead weights? What do they have to say about it?
Yeah, I can't speak for, most manufacturers, but from what I've heard and from the folks that I've talked to, they just produce what sells, and unfortunately, lead is currently what sells, and it's cheaper, like I mentioned, easy to manufacture from a large scale point. And that's as much as I know regarding manufacturers. We're very focused on the personal consumer choice of it, but do understand that it's got to be available somehow, and that's on the manufacturers and the retailers too.
Yeah, it's a two-way street. I wonder if they know or care or are. So you're doing this you're mainly going after. Why do you choose to go after the consumer and not the manufacturer? Or are you doing a two-pronged approach, or is there a reason you're choosing the consumer?
We're really proud of the fact that we have, what are we up to? We're 160 maybe, Stephen, on our manufacturer list. So there are manufacturers that are making lead-free options. They're smaller scale, so we're not, and so we really work hard to promote those smaller businesses to people, to help people know these are all the options out there on the market. I would say, just looking at some of the things that are left over from the early 2000s, is that the market and the products that are out there have really narrowed, and it's as Stephen talked about at the beginning, it's about performance, but I feel like the battle in the early 2000s around lead-free was that people weren't going to catch fish. And I feel like we don't hear that as often from anglers. Now we hear more about the price point. So we really try and promote these. And we're trying to get more lead-free options into smaller bait and tackle stores here in Minnesota too. But it's trying to get our way into all kinds of different groups of people, and trying to convince large scale manufacturer to change over their factory to all lead free. I'm not sure if we'd be able to accomplish that during the time period of our work.
But that said, we do have a good working relationship with many manufacturers out there, because we do procure lead-free options to hand out in sample packs or small starter kits for summer camps. So just by doing business, buying lead-free tackle from these manufacturers, I've got some good relationships and contacts with them too.
And are there manufacturers that are producing both lead and lead-free?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. So you don't want to be like you don't want to. You want to give them the carrot, not the stick, kind of a situation. Yeah. Got it. Well, that makes sense. I mean, it makes sense to just work with people, and it's been going on for a long time, and it's got to be fixed, but it's not treating it like it's the end of the world either. Kind of building that momentum and that collaboration, and over time, you're hoping that people will figure it out. Excuse the interruption, folks, but I just want to...
Oh, Charlie, you stink.
Oh, do I stink? Well, maybe I should use some Jolly Good soap. We have all different sorts of soap. Oh, it says Opit soap on the back. Oh my gosh, look at that. Jolly Good has come out with this new line of soap, so I should never have an excuse to stink again. We have cream soda soap. It's cherry soap. It's grape soap.
Oh
man,
it's orange soap.
These smell really good.
They do.
Yeah.
I don't know if you should use it on your body because I think that'd be like a lot.
Really?
I think you use it for your hands, right?
I want some cherry smelling armpits, Colleen.
There you go.
Look my life.
It's got all the different oils in it.
Oh yeah. Oh, olive oil, coconut oil, castor oil, avocado oil, shea butter. That's in the grape. Wow.
That's all of them in here too.
That's crazy.
So maybe if you're gonna go do an opening pitch, of course.
Inning pitch,
right? You do the old-fashioned cream soda if you've got family dinner. Orange.
Why?
Orange, you glad I had soap?
Okay, so that's it, folks.
Grape. I'll have grape for my date with Christian Yelich, so that it's a grape date. And I don't know.
I can't wait to see what you do with the cherry one.
And cherry, you do for
JollyGoodSoda.com, folks. Check them out.
I need to go back into improv. I'm not good on the fly.
JollyGoodSoda.com, where you can get your Jolly Good soaps, and of course, Jolly Good soda, the greatest soda this side of the Mississippi or that. And folks, I also want to let you know we got Mother's Day coming up, and we got all your gift-giving needs taken care of at manitowalkminute.com or Cripescast.com. Just click on the merch section, and bada bing, bada boom. Holy smokes, folks, look at that. You can get sweatshirts. We got new pink Midwest nice sweatshirts for moms who like pink.
Sweatshirts or shirts?
We also have them in blue. Oh, just shirts. Sorry. Okay. But we do have sweatshirts up there. Tell your folks I says hi. We've got hoodies, keep her moving, koozies, fishing gear for the moms who like to fish, cribbage boards. Everyone knows a family that plays cribbage really brings them together. And also starts a lot of
tears
fights.
them apart.
Yeah, that's kind of how that goes. But anyway, you can find it all, Cripescast.com. Just hit that merch section. And also, folks, we're on Patreon. If you want to see me go snowmobiling with my Uncle Rufus, if you want to see me go to the casino with my Grandma Sue, we got all those videos, exclusive content, patreon.com/Charlie Barons.
He did it, folks. He did it.
He did it, finally.
Yay.
And now, back to the Cripescast. What are some good lead-free alternative brands that people can seek out?
Yeah, Kelly mentioned we have a list of over 100 lead-free tackle manufacturing retailers.
Yeah, we'll put a link in the show notes. How does that sound?
Okay. Yeah, that works great. So we have a list of over 160, I think is how many line items there are of lead-free tackle products that are out there. And they include big manufacturers, so big Minnesota-based ones like Clam, Northland, Water Gremlin, but also very small, medium-sized businesses that rely solely on e-commerce for various reasons, I'm sure. So there are definitely some big companies out there, like I mentioned, Northland, Clam, Water Gremlin, that do have lead-free options.
Have you had conversations like with the legislature about, I mean, you know, you think of Minnesota, don't you guys have the loon on friggin' everything, every sweatshirt, every hat, you know?
Just about. You would think if this would be a really easy sell.
It's on your quarter. That's exactly right.
Yeah,
like
it's everywhere.
It's your state bird.
It's our state bird.
The loon's your state bird. So what the hell? Don't you think like the legislature would be like, we're screwing the loon, guys, and it's not that hard to not do it. I mean, look, think about the bald eagle. When they were like, oh, the bald eagle's getting that DDT, you know, all of America was like, that's our freaking bird, man. And then they changed it up. Why is that so hard in Minnesota, of all places, to put a law against using lead in the water?
I wish Steve and I had an easy answer to that. So we do a lot of things in our work, but we are a non-legislative group. Like we can't have anything to do with legislative due to our cooperative agreement with the Fish and Wildlife Service and the DNR.
Due to what? Due to what?
We have a cooperative agreement with the Fish and Wildlife Service and the DNR. That's our funding source. So we don't delve into legislative issues, but yeah.
Well, I don't understand why though.
It's just written into the terms of the work that we're doing that we can't promote or endorse any kind of legislation that's currently happening.
Why? Like, what was the point in writing that in it? That doesn't make any sense to me.
That's all we've known since we've been working on this since 2020.
So they don't want you having any say in the legislative aspect?
Yeah.
Huh.
There are things happening in the Minnesota legislature right now about lead fishing tackle and protection of species. So that is happening, but no easy answers, Charlie, for why we can't get Minnesotans on board with getting the smaller size lead out of our stores and off of our fishing lines. I wish we had an easy answer.
Well, how come they can do it with hunting though? You know, again, I bring that up. How can they do it with hunting and like, what's the difference?
Yeah, that's a good point. I just thought up too that, with hunting, it was brought up to me by a manufacturer, with hunting, you shoot a shell, you shoot a bullet, and then you have to buy another one. Whereas fishing, if you cast out a jig, you're not going to buy another jig. So I believe that hunters are constantly in that purchasing mode. I go through a box of shells, got to buy the next one. So they're always thinking about what could they buy? What could they buy? Whether they stick with the old one or they go with the new lead-free one. So I think that's why hunters have gone very far in terms of personal consumer choices.
I don't know. Is it consumer choices? Isn't not illegal? I've hunted waterfowl in 3 different states, one of which is South Carolina. And let me tell you, in South Carolina, it's hard to find a regulation anybody gives a shit about. But that was the buddy I went with, very, very conservative, don't tread on me kind of guy. And he was like, you got to get steel shot. You're not putting any lead in the it was place over by his farm or whatever. But I mean, that's a place, that you would think they wouldn't care. They care very deeply. If you can get South Carolina to care about not putting lead into their waterways, I'm sure you can get Minnesota to feel the same. And I understand there is a difference between the hunting and the fishing. Hunting, it's always going out. You're not retrieving any of those pellets. Fishing, very different. It's almost like it's already out there. So how do you enforce it? Maybe that's it, right? Like, how do you really enforce? Are you going to tell a kid who's just got this tackle, he can't do anything else, that he can't use that tackle? Is that it?
Yeah. And in terms of the waterfowl hunting, and Steve and I, we talk about hunting somewhat, but it's not our main focus. And the waterfowl ban on lead shot, I think, came in the early 90s, and it's a national thing through the Fish and Wildlife Service. On waterfowl hunting. So that's why steel shot, it is what it is now, right? It kind of takes a generation for there to be this change where it's like, why would we ever use lead? We've always used steel. So part of what we're trying to do too is trying to have a generational change with kids and be like, use lead free. This is why.
Yeah.
And don't even think about using lead.
Yeah. Right. No, I mean, look, I pretty much just learned that, from you both. So thank you. And Kyle, who reached out. So, thank you for letting me know, because I'm as ignorant as, everybody else on this issue, really. Yeah, so I guess it just is about getting it out, getting that information out there. But anyway, you would think that, and I understand legislation is not within your realm of possibilities for some unknown reason, which I'm sure there's a really good reason for. But I think that it would be cool to see, people at least have a plan for eliminating lead from the sort of tackle supply, given that it is as big of an issue as you both say it is. So that aside, I do have a bigger question I need to ask you both about. Minnesota is the land of 10,000 lakes, but Wisconsin, we got 15,000 lakes. And we don't feel the need to put it on our license plate. I'm just going to say that. Okay. So what's going on with this? Huh?
Yeah, as mentioned, Charlie, I got into this argument with a lot of folks when I was in Madison.
Yes.
It was either the cabin versus cottage debate, the 10,000 lakes debate, classic Minnesota, Wisconsin debates.
Yeah.
But yeah, from what I vaguely remember, I think Minnesota has a stricter definition of what is a lake, whereas Wisconsin has a looser definition. So it's like the acreage, and also Wisconsin includes unnamed lakes. Don't quote me on that, but if essentially if Minnesota were to loosen our definition of a lake, it would have way more. So
and then you'd have to name them all, which is
yeah, that's true.
That's no easy task. You can just ask random Lake Wisconsin.
Yeah,
it's tough
like
naming all these lakes.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're maintaining that if Minnesota counted every puddle like Wisconsin does, you guys would have more lakes than us still.
I would say so, yeah.
Okay.
Don't quote me on any of this. It's not my area of expertise. Actually, I had to look it up to settle debate.
Okay. All right. And casserole or hot dish?
I like hot dish. Kelly, how about you?
I grew up in the South, actually. I'm originally from Minnesota, but spent my entire childhood in the South and didn't even probably know what a hot dish was until I was in my 20s. So I'm going to go casserole.
Okay. Wow. All right. So no allegiances. Where in the South did you grow up?
I grew up outside of Atlanta in the other
nice.
Duluth.
In the other Duluth. I didn't know they had a Duluth down there.
Yep.
Duluth, Georgia, huh?
Yep.
Swampier this time of year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Is there anything I missed, guys, in all sort of the questions I asked about this, or any important things that you think would like inspire people to maybe change up their tackle or anything like that?
Yeah, I could provide tips on how to go lead free. I've done it myself and know many people who have. So certain tips that, I found useful when I was kind of searching for lead free tackles, don't do it all at once. Because if you do, probably won't have much tackle left, to be completely honest. And I tell folks, next time you're buying tackle, just consider lead free options. And it's perfectly okay to have a tackle box that's 99% lead, 1% lead free. Just give it a try, see if you like it, see if you want to buy more. And also evaluate your tackle, what you already use. So think about what you tend to use for a season, what you don't even use. So think back about what you didn't use for ice fishing, safely dispose of it, which I'll get into later too. And just think about what you most frequently use already. Like I grew up bass fishing mostly and just used plain steel hooks and plastics, didn't involve lead at all. So I realized that, it's not that hard for me personally to go lead free in that avenue. And having the material and tackle type down of the lead free tackle that you want will help narrow it down. So it's a broad search to do a lead free Google search. But if you have a tungsten jig as a Google search, you'll find very specific products. And tin is also an alternative. Steel is also an alternative as well too. And for Minnesotans, at least, I'm not sure about Wisconsin, to safely dispose of your lead tackle, bring it to your county household hazardous waste facility. So they're properly licensed and equipped to manage lead waste. And we've been told they're recycled into car batteries too. So we have folks who have, just like yourself or my lead tackle that I had, people stockpile for years and years, and they just want to get rid of it before they go lead free. And we point people towards their household hazardous waste facility.
Oh, that's great that they recycle it too.
Yeah.
We're trying to really say, like, do a little spring cleaning of your tackle box. Like, as Stephen said, it's a great time to look at what did I use last summer? What did I not use? Also, all the money people are spending on tungsten for ice fishing. I talk to kids in the summer and I'm like, why wouldn't you cast this out to catch panfish? I mean, it's a small hook. If you're just dock fishing, use this expensive tungsten jig and try it out for open water too. So it doesn't have to be just like ice season and open water season too. So
okay, I'm going to talk like my dad now just for a second to these kids. Make sure you learn how to do a good cinch knot or a palmer knot or whatever. Don't go, over the river and through the woods with a little, with just work on your knots, kids. Okay. Cause this stuff is expensive. And oh my gosh, I'm just getting elevated blood pressure just thinking about it. But I'm sure that's probably, as I'm talking like this, I'm sure that's a big, as you guys have mentioned in this too, cost is a huge thing. So learning how to tie a good fishing knot. Maybe that's what I should do, a fishing knot tutorial at the end of this, to show people how to tie a proper knot.
Yeah.
And then I'll get all the haters being like, that's not how you tie it, bro. You're going to lose all your lures like that. But it's a couple basic knots. The cinch knot and the palmer knot is sort of, they go well. And also, the line you're using and everything like that can help too. So
Yeah, definitely. It all comes down to being a responsible angler, and responsible could involve many things, using up-to-date line and tying it well, handling fish with care, and also in our case, using lead-free tackle.
Yeah.
And like Stephen said, start slow. Like we acknowledge, Charlie, like, Stephen and I cleaned out all of our lead kind of as soon as we started doing this, because we were like, we got to walk the walk here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of overwhelming when you look at your tackle box. And, I had inherited my grandfather's and I had my dad's tackle box, and it's a lot of lead and it's overwhelming. And so we always say, like, you don't have to do it all at once, but can you just like try one new lead-free product this season and see how it goes? And like maybe make the transition a little bit at a time until it's just something that you're going to fish with all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Aside for lead, is there anything else in conventional fishing tackle that's concerning from an environmental standpoint?
I know some are made out of zinc too. That's a known toxin too to wildlife.
Zinc. So zinc and lead. Got it. All right. Well, thank you so much. That I know that I learned a lot in doing this, and as much as I maybe get annoyed sometimes if like people know there's a problem and yet we're still selling it or whatever, you both have a much healthier, I think, thought process on it of just get people in, just try it, give it a go. You don't have to make the entire transition tomorrow, but in the long term, it's what makes sense. So just give it a go. The next time you're over at the Fleet Farm or wherever, buy more fishing tackle, look for the tungsten jigs and the tungsten weights. And they make tungsten weights too, huh?
Split shot is usually tin. Yeah.
Tin. Okay.
Yeah. And Charlie, what do you like to fish for?
I like, oh my gosh. So walleye, primarily, but also perch. I do like, and some people are I love fishing for northern pike and bass, because pike, I'm just going under the assumption I'm not going to get a muskie, so I just like going for the pike and hoping a muskie hits. Every time I'm going for muskie anyway, I just get pike, so I just say I'm fishing for pike. But they do give a nice fight, But I've also gotten into fly fishing because my buddy's really into it. So yeah, I like fishing for anything at the end. Bluegills give a good fight too, You're always like, oh, it's a bluegill, but you got to appreciate the fight of a bluegill. You're like, could be a bass. It's almost like bluegill's like the Superman of fish. It's a bird. It's a plane. No, it's Superman. It's a pike. It's a bass. Oh, it's a bluegill? Son of a bitch, But they are pretty fish.
We'd be happy to send you some lead-free tackle too, just to, if you don't have much in your tackle box, to give you a sampling of what we're sharing with people. And
I would love that.
Great.
I would love that. And actually, if you send that over, we can add it to the intro of this podcast too. We'll show folks what you're kind of working with. So great. That would be great.
We can do that.
Thank you.
We also have gear too. If you and Colleen want a t-shirt or
sure
a trucker hat or a bucket hat, we have stuff.
Yeah, that sounds good. You guys send us. We're gonna do a merch exchange. We're gonna send you both some Manitwag Minute stuff too.
Love it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, really appreciate you both for coming on. You're doing amazing work. Thank you for it. And make sure you watch out for loons. They are beautiful this time of
Absolutely.
year.
And they'll be back in the next probably a couple weeks. So
You like how I said that? Like they're trees? Oh my gosh, they're beautiful this time of year. Yeah, and actually, real quick story. I was like out kayaking this one time up north, up in Wisconsin, the border of the UP, and it was early in the morning. I was up because one of my siblings was crying or something. Big family, so one of the younger ones. And so I was going through this one bay, and I was just sitting there, and it was dead silent. And then all of a sudden, I heard, and all like probably 100 loons just came in all at the same time and just landed there. And it was like the loons. I think there were loon babies there, although they can't really fly, can they? So
No.
maybe I was just on drugs. I don't know. I wasn't on drugs. Anyway, though, I was sitting in this bay and there were just all these loons there and it looked so magical. And the more I say this, I don't even know if loons go in that big of packs, that big of flocks. Do they go in that big of flocks?
certain times of year, especially like
Late summer
as like fall migrations kind of gearing up, a lot of loons will actually go and stage on Lake Michigan for a while, and they'll just kind of hang out in these big groups. So,
okay. So that's probably what it was.
Mhm.
Yeah, I was on the Cisco chain, which is a big chain of lakes up there in the UP in Wisconsin. So, but it was really magical. It was a cool thing to just witness and be there for. And also, I suppose at that time of year, there wouldn't be many young ones at that point anyway, would they?
The juveniles are often left behind on the lakes they were born on, and they'll stick around sometimes late into the fall but the adults will head out before them.
Okay, leave the kids at home.
Yeah, leave them at home. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it was a cool experience for me seeing the loons, and I hope that many generations to come can witness that and hopefully remember it better than I recollected it. But I do remember it being very cool. So anyway, thank you both for your work, and we'll talk to you guys soon.
Great. Thank you for having us on and sharing about this issue and this message to all of your followers too. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Charlie, to Colleen, and shout out to Kyle for making this happen.
Yeah. Thanks, right. Colleen.
She says bye now. All right. See you guys.
See you.
Huge thanks to Stephen and Kelly for coming on the Cripescast. I learned a lot. I hope you did too. Colleen, if people want to figure out more about Get the Lead Out, where do they go?
All right. So if you want to know more about this initiative and what's going on, you can go to www.pcastate.mn and it will just talk to you all about what they're doing and their initiative to try to get the lead out of fish. Also, if you want to find more about where to get lead-free alternatives, we will put the link in the show notes. And like Stephen said in the episode, you don't have to do it all at once, but if you just start slowly but surely taking those out and all of that and infiltrating it was it tungsten was the other alternative? Just do a little bit here and there, and I think the loons will thank you for it. They'll go, ooh. I don't know how to do it right.
You're getting better. You're getting better. And folks, also make sure you comment on our Instagram video because we're going to choose one of you to get your own tungsten fishing tackle and send you one of Grandpa Bob's tackle boxes off of the Mantua Minute merch site. So thank you all for listening. I'd like to thank Kelly Maraca, the executive producer of the Cripescast. Also, Hannah Milos for editing this sucker. She does a great job. And I hope all of you have a wonderful day, a wonderful week, and I hope you watch out for deer.
So roll out the barrel and get the band brewing. Life's got you down, just keep her moving. It's on Wisconsin, the Badgers say it's the old Wisconsin Jubilee.
You know, sometimes when you're ice fishing, you put your foot in the walleye hole and go ass over tea kettle and you think you're done. No, you gotta keep her moving.